What is the difference between a prison and a home? Basic difference. The difference is, in the home, you have the freedom to go in whenever you want, but most importantly, you also have the freedom to get out whenever you want. In a prison, you don't have that choice. Neither do you have the choice of going in, nor do you have the choice of getting out. This is the difference. So therefore, the question that arises is, are you making a home of your body, mind and intellect, or has it become a prison for you? What do you think? Sorry? Is it? Prison. We are living in the body, mind and intellect. We are operating out of the body, mind and intellect, but we have, by our own choice, denied ourselves the freedom to leave the body, mind. Leave means not death, please. The freedom to operate out of the limitations of the body, mind and intellect. Whereas a man of realization, a jnani, like Krishna, Ramatirtha, so many, this country has shortages of so many things, except great men of realization. Right through the ages we've had some enlightened soul who has appeared on the scene and led us generation after generation for centuries together out of this darkness, out of this prison and into the light. It is for us to take the help of such enlightened souls. Instead, what are we doing? We are burying ourselves in the body, mind and intellect. So the difference is that this body, mind and intellect, what are the functions of the body, mind and intellect? With the body, you enjoy the senses, sense perception. You enjoy the world through your objects of senses, and you act through the body. With the mind, you transact with the world emotionally, and with the intellect, the same transaction through ideas and ideologies. You can continue with this functioning. In fact, you can enjoy more of the world. But never must you depend upon it. Never must you get attached to it. Never must you reach a stage where you can't live without it. This is the difference. We have misunderstood the scriptures as saying, we believe that the Bhagavad Gita says don't enjoy the world. Why on earth will Krishna tell us not to enjoy the world? What he's telling us is, don't make a prison out of it. Don't get into the situation where you cannot operate out. You get limited by it. See, please understand, the body is extremely limited. There are certain functions of the body which you can, as long as you are identified with the body, you are limited by the capabilities of the body. For instance, when there is a marathon, you have a Delhi marathon? Is it over? Oh, okay. Suppose you decide, I am going to run the marathon, which is how many kilometers? 42 kilometers. Okay? You haven't even walked half a mile. Do you think you're going to be, however much you want to, you are limited by the body. You can't run 42 kilometers. Similarly, the mind has its limitations. The mind cannot penetrate into realms unknown, which the intellect can. The intellect can penetrate into realms unknown. It can conceive of, let's say, a star that is many, many millions of light, many, many million light years away. And then stretch the resources of the intellect and try and capture that. Capture in the sense, try and understand what it is. But the intellect, the gross intellect, cannot penetrate into the transcendental. So each one has its limitations. However, while operating with the world, while operating with the body, if your inspiration, your motivation for work is something higher, for instance, you have a relative in hospital. You smash through the conditioning of the limitations of the body and you come out with performance, you find you're so much more energetic when there is a crisis than normally. Why does that happen? Because you have smashed through the limitations of the body and you're operating out of a much higher motivation. Next comes intellect. The mind has its limitations. Wherever you're attached, you can't break free from that. For instance, if this is the season that children come back from the United States, right? Everywhere you see youngsters speaking with an American accent. So, if your child comes back from America and he's here only for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maximum a month. During that 1 month, to the extent that you are attached to the child, you are totally limited. Isn't that true? See, I see smiles on your faces. Because it struck a chord. You can't operate outside of the attachment of the mind, outside the limitations of the mind. If your friend calls you to a party, you say, oh, I can't, my daughter's here. Somebody else calls you to a meeting in the office, I can't, 1 month I will not attend office. Arey? I'm not suggesting you should leave your daughter alone and go and do whatever you want. That's not the point. The point is, you must understand you're limited to the extent you're attached. Same thing with the intellect. You're limited by your intellectual ideologies. A communist can't understand liberalization. A capitalist can't penetrate the mind of a communist. So they're at loggerheads. You're limited by your prejudices, your biases, your ideologies, and this is what makes for conflict. This conflict arises once you're stuck with an ideology, you can't break free from that. Then, even between siblings they quarrel because I think differently, you think differently. Father and son, mother and daughter, all the conflicts arise because of difference in ideologies sometimes. So, what Krishna is telling us in the Bhagavad Gita, what is renunciation? Renunciation is not giving up the body, mind and intellect and its entertainment in the world. Renunciation is breaking free from the limitations of the body, mind and intellect while retaining their enjoyment, while going through their activities, while accessing everything that the world has to offer through the body, mind and intellect. Never get limited. This is renunciation. What a wonderfully liberal, what an optimistic view of things. And yet we, the educated Indian, the elite Indian, has chosen to misunderstand, and then we don't want to break free from our misunderstanding. So if anybody wants to come and listen to the Bhagavad Gita, you will say, why are you wasting your time now? You are so young. Wait till you are 1 foot in the grave and then learn Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is not a sop for the aged or the dying. The Bhagavad Gita is a dynamic prescription for action for the young. And the sooner we understand it, the better it's going to be for us and for the future generation. See, we have already destroyed ourselves. Forget about us. It's the next generation that we should be concerned with. And what are we doing? We are promoting, we are encouraging them. In one generation back, after graduation, they used to go to the United States to do their post-graduation. Then came a time and for graduation itself they started going. Now they are sent for high school. I'm not saying you should not send your children abroad, but before you send them, have you given them the strength, the fundamentals, the substratum, the foundation on which to build their life? Foundation of values, of internal strength. How can you build anything on a shaky foundation? It's like Christ said, the difference between a fool and a wise person is a fool builds a house on sand, on the beach. And when the storm comes, the whole house is gone. Wise man is one who builds his house on a strong foundation on a rock. And this bedrock of values is what the Bhagavad Gita gives us. It is not to be misunderstood as a religious sect, please. The Bhagavad Gita is a universal message for mankind. It's a science of self-management. To brand it as a narrow ism is as ridiculous as saying, I don't accept the law of gravity because Newton discovered it and it belongs to the British. And I decided to boycott everything British, so I boycott the law of gravity also. You will be crushed by the very law that you have rejected. And that's what's happening to us. So therefore, understand what it does to you. First of all, the more you get entangled with the body, mind and intellect, it enslaves you. You can't break free from the way the body, the mind and the intellect function. The second thing that it happens is it distorts your personality completely. Because you operate on the likes and dislikes of the mind, you operate on your attachments. When you operate on likes and dislikes, examine what you do. You pick on a person and say, I love this person. And then what happens? Irrespective of that person's nature or that person's qualities, you project a certain goodness on the person just because I love the person. That's it. And then when the person shows his true colors, you are devastated. The same way you decide to pick on a person and say, I hate him. When you hate him, you project viciousness onto the person and completely miss all the good points that he has. Thereafter, you can't interact with him, you can't do anything with him. Then what do you need? You need an arbitrator to come on the scene and make peace between you two. And if that also fails, you go to court. And then High Court and Supreme Court, but you don't understand the supremost court is Atman. So, and then the worst thing is it sabotages our talent. Then you get so muddled and so mixed up and so confused with your likes and dislikes and your joys and sorrows that you completely forget your mission in life. What is it that you are born with? Every one of us is born with a unique gift. And our primary responsibility in life, our primary obligation in life is to blossom in that particular talent and set aside all these trivial things. It doesn't matter whom you like or whom you dislike. It doesn't matter what food you get or what food you do not get. It doesn't matter what you're wearing or what you're not wearing. Complete trivial things you're concerned with. Yes, of course you must make sure that everything in the world is all right. We are not suggesting that you should be sloppy and untidy and messy, but not at the expense of your primary obligation in life. So, the next question that arises is, once you understand that you're in a prison, how do you break free from this prison? How you break free from the prison is, shift your thoughts and focus on the life outside the prison. You must conceive of a state beyond the prison of the body, mind and intellect. And then, therefore, you detach from prison life. Detach means mentally detach, not physically. To understand this, there is a beautiful movie called Lock Up, correct? See? God gives the answer. The name of the movie is Lock Up. Has anyone seen that? Oh, you must see it. See, apart from Bhagavad Gita, we also show you movies. Not show, we recommend movies. This movie, it's a Hollywood movie, it's an English movie. It's with the actor Sylvester Stallone. Okay? This movie is about a guy who gets thrown into prison for whatever reason. That's immaterial. And the prison warden, the guy in charge of the prison, for some reason he decides to hate this guy. And while he's in prison, the prison warden gets the other prisoners who are actually criminals, this fellow is not a criminal, to gang up against him and make his life miserable, to provoke him into fighting. And then say, pick on him and maybe put him in solitary confinement or whatever it is. At some stage, this man understands what games this prison warden is playing with him and decides to take preemptive action. What he understands is he knows his real life is beyond the prison. He has a wife, he has a family, he has his whole life waiting for him outside the prison. And he understands that his stay in the prison is a temporary one. This is not his real life. His real life is out there. The moment he understands this, what happens? Everything he does or does not do in the prison is geared towards getting out of the prison as quickly as possible, preferably on parole for good behavior. So, number one, he refuses to get provoked into acts of violence by his fellow inmates. Number two, he doesn't get affected by what happens. One day when he's sitting there at mealtime and he's hungry, he takes his plate to the table, he's about to start eating when somebody comes and takes away his food from him. He's about to fight, then he reminds himself, no, if I do that, my release is at stake. And so he tells himself, what difference does it make if I skip one meal in the prison? One meal in the prison and I will get many, many more meals outside the prison. So you see, you should weigh every action, everything that you do against the price that you have to pay for it. Last night we had dinner with somebody and the gentleman was telling us how he lost weight and how important it was to him to understand, to be aware of the price that you have to pay for different kinds of foods. For instance, if you want to lose weight, you cannot afford to eat. Sometimes there is a small item which is very, very rich in calories. And you don't understand it. You automatically, unconsciously, without awareness, eat it. And then you say, I'm on a diet, but I'm not losing weight. It can't be. It cannot happen. What is happening is, you go on a diet and you stop eating healthy food, and then you get hungry and you eat unhealthy food which is rich in calories. So similarly, even in terms of action, you put in Herculean effort to get on the right path, to perform right actions, to evolve spiritually and all the rest of it, and then one wrong action and you wipe out everything. And then you say, your spiritual path of karma yoga, bhakti yoga is all useless, it doesn't work. The technique is not useless. It cannot be. It's impossible. It only means that there are areas where you are unaware of the negativity of your action. When you perform it, how much it takes you back. And that's why all of us are performing actions, what do they call it? Yo-yo diet, like that. You take 3 steps forward, 4 steps backward. Another 5 steps forward, 4 steps backward. In the end, you're going around in circles in the same place. So, the focus is important. You have to focus on life outside, and then you detach yourself from the prison life. So it doesn't matter what happens. This doesn't mean that you should not enjoy it. He enjoys it. He, in fact, acts. He finds a broken down car there in the yard, prison yard, and he's a mechanic. So he gets together his friends and he says, come on, instead of sitting around chatting and gossiping and fighting with each other, he says, let's do something constructive. and they work on that car for months together and get it back to working condition and brand new showroom condition. Just then, the prison warden is waiting. He's just waiting to bait this guy. He tells his cronies there, the other criminal prisoners, says, smash this car. And they smash that car to smithereens, just beat it down to bare metal. And this man's friends, the guys who worked on the car, get so livid, they get so hurt that they're boiling. That's when this man tells them, he says, what's the matter with you? Don't you understand? Everything in the prison belongs to him, the guy there, the prison warden. He chose to allow us to make the car. He is now decided to smash the car. What difference does it make to us? The gain was his, the loss is his. It's the same with us. We are in this prison of life in the world. We've come into this world and you unnecessarily get attached to things and say this is mine and that is mine and the rest of it. It's not yours. It belongs to the prison warden, not the prison warden, to God. The only difference is, in the movie the prison warden was a vicious person. Here he is a benevolent force, a divine force. Only when you understand this do you have the right relationship with everything that the world has to offer to you. When good things come your way, enjoy them. Be grateful that you have received them. And that increases your motivation to pay back to society. The more you receive in life, the greater is your obligation to pay back. And once you fix a higher idea, once you get into payback mode, once you shift your attitude from one of taking to that of giving, how wonderful life becomes. In every transaction, whatever you do in life, you must maintain this attitude of giving at all times. Now this doesn't mean you take out a credit and debit and all that and sit down and calculate, oh, you took me out to dinner so I must pay back. No, not that way. Irrespective of whether anybody does anything for you or not, whoever you meet, whatever you come across, wherever life takes you, your business is to give. And if you maintain this attitude of giving, my God, life becomes wonderful. That's what he maintains in that prison. Even as long as he's in prison, his main concern is just to contribute. That's it. Without depending on the fruit. The fruit is his. If there is a profit, it's his. If there is a loss, it's also his. And if you maintain that, you get into the state where whatever you do only to get out of it. You work to get out of the prison. You feel emotions, you transact emotionally with people only to get out of the prison. And if you think you're doing it only to get out. And you know what happens? The world will be at your feet. The world comes to a person who functions in this manner. You know Lord Ganesha? Lord Ganesha is the most popular god in the Hindu pantheon. Wherever you go, you see Lord Ganesha. What is outstanding about Lord Ganesha is, you need to understand that. Lord Ganesha represents a man of perfection. We don't have time to go into the details, but one outstanding thing is, there is always lots of good food at the feet of Lord Ganesha. Good food, sweets at the feet of Lord Ganesha. What it represents is, when you rise to the state of perfection, when you forget getting out of the prison, just make effort to get out of the prison, the world will be at your feet. As we've been saying throughout, the only way to understand this is by living it, experimenting with it. Try it out in your life. From tomorrow onwards, not tomorrow onwards, 8 o'clock this evening onwards, at least for one day or 1 week, try it out. Function in an attitude of giving, in a spirit of giving. Giving is not necessarily writing out a check to people, it includes that. Swami Ramatirtha says, he was a person who did not mince words. What do you call it? Move hut. He was like that. Whatever the truth is, he spoke. He says, the way to gain anything is to lose it, to give it. By this, converse is also true. If you don't give, you lose. So if you are losing, remember one thing. It's because you've been taking.